Welcome back to another episode of Tractor Roy. Let me tell you, I'm pretty excited. This thing has been in here for like a year now. The only progress I've really made on it is, not so much progress, just tearing it all apart. Have both of the back wheels off. Well, let's see, that front wheel's off. As you can see, I got a good used tire put on that rim. One of these rims I got all patched up. I think it's this one. This one right here. Those two, I got to cut some off so I can weld it together. I got one tube sitting right there. I have a brand new tire going on one side and a good used tire that was originally on this thing for the other side. I got to get another tube too still. Anyway, so what we're doing here today, I have the O-rings to pop the sleeves in, and I have the rings for these pistons. So what I like to do on this, rather than going through a whole rebuild with new sleeves and pistons, I just am doing a re-ring kit on it. I know some people are going to be like, oh, why are you going through the effort of doing this? But this is just what I'm doing. I'm not into this thing very much. I'd like to keep it that way. Name of the game here is high effort, low budget, mediocre results. I'm just interested in getting this thing running. I have so many tractors laying around. If this thing breaks down, it's really not that big of a deal to just hop off of it, hop on another one, and continue on my way. I only do this for hanging as a hobby. I don't do this to make money off of. I'm not restoring it. I'm not restoring this for somebody else. I don't even know if this thing's going to stick around. If I can put 100 hours on it and it runs fantastic, has no issues, then I have no issues selling it to somebody else. Doesn't matter to me. But I'm not going to just turn around and sell it right away without really putting this thing through its paces to make sure that this is going to work. Anyways, what I have here is we're going to reuse these cylinders. These sleeves. I'm going to hone them out, clean up all that surface rust that's in there. Really, these things aren't too bad. Just water got down the exhaust, rotted out the manifold. This has been a while, so we're just going to go over the whole project. So we're going to put new sealing rings on here, pop these back in. We're going to put new rings on these pistons after we clean up some of those ring grooves a little bit more, slap this thing back together, and then I still have to order some gaskets for it, a new manifold, and a new muffler. But that's where we're at. So this episode, I'm going to be working on rings and honing out those sleeves. I do believe I forgot to mention what this is. It is a 1953 Allis Chalmers WD45. It'll be pretty easy to tell because of the playlist it's in and the title of this video, but we'll get that out of the way now. So my method here right now is I just take this oil can with some engine oil, new, not used. Put a generous helping of oil in here. Then I take my 3-jaw hone and just do this for a couple minutes. Maybe not a couple minutes, you know what I mean. But the name of the game is you don't want to keep it rotating in one place. You want to keep moving that drill in and out, back and forth. Gets a nice crosshatch pattern inside these cylinders. That'll help hold some of that oil in there so that way those rings aren't just bone dry. So if you were to hold it in one place, those scores would be just like this. And if it was polished, then there wouldn't be anything. That oil doesn't have anything to grab onto. And especially if those rings are just straight across like this, they'll hit every one of those grooves on the way up and down and just keep chipping away at your rings. Those rings are cast iron. It's very hard, but it's very brittle because of it. So that shock from hitting each of those score marks will just keep chipping away at them. So that'll damage your rings pretty badly. So when you do a move in and out, it gets a crosshatch. It'll be almost like a double helix, kind of like in DNA, almost, but it's at an angle. So that way it's more like scissors, and those rings are they're gradually hitting it. They're not just all full force going at it. So that's why we're doing this. And then if you had smooth walls, you wouldn't have anything for the oil to grab onto. So the first time those rings went down, they would wipe all the oil off, and then it'd be dry, just metal on metal contact. With the crosshatch, those crosshatches hold some of that oil, so the ring doesn't just wipe it all off as it goes past. I'm talking a lot. Sorry, we'll get back to it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and wipe this thing out, see how it looks, see if we need to go a little bit longer, if there's still a little bit of rust that I don't like, or if this is a done cylinder and on to the next one. So here's what one of those sleeves looks like after I've honed it. I'm not trying to make it perfect. I'm trying to knock down all that surface rust. That way when those rings grind past it, they're not just going to totally break apart. Those rings are going to clean these things up, especially after running, a couple thousand times up and down in the cylinders. They'll really clean these things up. But for now, for a first start, that's pretty good. Here's a piston with a very messy backdrop. There are 4 ring grooves to this. When you get these in a kit, they'll be labeled. This is the top groove. Obviously, it's right here, closest to the combustion area. This is going to be the main compression ring. That's what holds all the gases in from there. These other 2 are going to be secondary compression rings, basically. Anything that gets any gases that escape past this first ring should get caught by the second and third. This last one right here is going to be your oil ring. That's what wipes the oil off, so that way you don't get excess oil. It wipes excess oil off the cylinder walls. That way you don't get excess oil being burnt up here in the combustion chamber. We have a package for second groove, third groove, and fourth groove. These are 3-piece rings. You'll have one of these flat, basically washers, on the top and the bottom, and then you'll have this one inside in the middle. That oil ring will go in first. As you can kind of tell, this is the first 2 are one size and the third one's a different size. I want to say that this is 0.09 inches and then this one is 0.125. I think so, something like that. Make sure when you go to order these that you verify before you order it. These are 4 1/8 diameter with the 0.09 first 2, 0.125 second, and then that oil groove. Some of these only have 2 compression rings, not 3. Some of these Allis Chalmers also have the same 3 rings all the way across. Just make sure you pay attention to that. Also, if there is a side specific, they will either have a dot that goes up, or they will have something saying like top, and these don't, so it doesn't matter. So my plan is I'm going to show you the first one, and we'll kind of do a time lapse or something of the next 4, because they're all the next 3 after that, because they're all the same. So I don't know how easy this is going to be, but let's stick this first one in. It's also a good idea to make sure that these things that your grooves aren't lined up, because then you can have everything just going past. Ooh. Maybe that's what needs to happen, is this has to go on second. See, I haven't done these in a while. Okay, so now we'll get the wiper in there first, I guess. Boy, there we go. Okay, now we need another one. Okay, there's our oil ring. There's our oil ring in the bottom. Make sure you keep these rings separated, because as you can tell, they do matter. Actually, these first 2 are probably the same, but since they're labeled different, we're going to install them that way. So like I said earlier in the video, these rings are cast iron. That means they're hard but very brittle. So you don't want to do it like I just did on that. You want to use a ring compressor, or not a ring compressor, a pair of ring pliers like this. So you stick either end in here, and it kind of evenly opens them up. So then you stick it over the top like so. Boy, maybe. That's how it works in theory. There we go. Make sure it's in that ring. See how much spring these things have? How far they stick out? These are really good rings. As your rings wear out, then they'll compress down and they won't have as much spring action to open back up. So these will get a good seal up against that wall. When they're actually in the cylinder, they're going to be very almost touching on the ends here. There's not going to be as big of a gap like there is now. Same thing, we'll check for a dot. Oh, there's a dot right there. So the dot goes up. You can turn these after the fact too. You can get them on, and then, because I like to break them up into thirds. I'll have the first one pointing this way, second one this way, third one this way. They do spin, but the thought process here is as they spin when this engine is running, they'll still be spinning all, it's gapped differently. If you had them all lined up, hypothetically, combustion gases could just go straight past it, and then you'd kind of defeat the purpose of putting in new rings. Okay, it looks like this one is actually chrome edge, so this one does matter. This is your top edge, or this is your top ring. It has the chrome plating. You can see it's silver compared to just black for the cast iron rings of the other two. That helps with sealing this stuff a little better. Okay, and these ones do not have a dot. Let's go ahead and stick it on. There we go. Okay, just like that, 3 more times. Nothing to it once you get one on. So I think we're going to call that an episode right there. I'm going to keep these next couple a little short. It's also time to put my kids to bed, so I'm going to clean up a couple of things like those wheels on that side. So we're ready to rock and roll on this either later tonight or in the morning. So we've got all of our sleeves honed out to my liking. We've got all of our rings installed on, and we made sure those ring grooves are clean for those rings. So next time we're going to stick those O-rings in these grooves on these sleeves. We're going to see if we can use a little dish soap maybe or something, seat these things into the block, and then we're going to compress our rings, stick them down, hopefully get them attached to the crankshaft and those connecting rod caps torqued down. Once we get to that point, we'll make sure that this thing will turn over, and we'll keep going from there. But that's the next episode coming up. If you enjoyed this, hit that thumbs up button, throw a comment down below. Let me know what you think. If you're not subscribed, make sure to do that. As you can tell, sometimes I pick up on these projects, sometimes they drop off. So if you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, you'll be able to know what's happening. Hopefully now we're going to get some momentum going on this thing. It's been in here for a year. I'm really itching to get this thing worked on and out of here. We've had tons of projects come and go. This thing is still sat in the back corner. I'm hoping it can see the light of day, ideally by the time the snow melts off, but we'll see. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Tractor Roy. Hope I'll catch you on the next one.